You're watching Drive the Lightning, the positively charged EV channel.
Perfect. We are with Dave Huerta. We're talking about the EV6 from Kia, one of the most exciting EVs on the market in our opinion, but this guy owns it.
Yes, and everybody that I have met that I've run into and talked to that has an EV6, they love it. But we want to talk to Dave for his perspective because
Driven a lot of cars. This guy's driven a lot of cars.
Yeah.
Dave, give us your overall opinion of the car. Then we're going to ask you some specifics.
All righty. So I really love my EV6. I got the GT line. It's quick. It's rear wheel drive. So I didn't get the all wheel drive version. A lot of bang for the buck. I mean, rear wheel drive, which I prefer a rear wheel drive car to a front wheel drive car. So that's a huge plus for me. My Bolt was the only car I owned that was front wheel drive. And so I sold the Bolt EUV because I can't have any front wheel drive cars in my driveway unless they're all wheel drive. That's the only thing the only other option I'll do. So I really liked the way it drives. It's surprisingly, like I had a Telluride before, and it's almost the same wheelbase as the Telluride.
Wow.
So it has a very nice big vehicle ride feel, which is surprising because when you're looking at a Telluride, they look so much bigger.
Right.
But I guess it's not all that much bigger than EV6 as far as the wheelbase.
Well, that's interesting. We've been driving the BMW i3 lately a lot, and it is something nice about a rear wheel drive car. Yeah. I mean, it's different, and I don't know how.
I thought you were going to compare the size because I was like,
no. Yeah. But let's talk a little bit about some of the things that people might not know about, Dave, like some of the outside light effects.
So to me, this has been one of the coolest things about the EV6. So I live in Texas, so there's a lot of guys that have these trucks, and on their trucks on the running boards, they have all these puddle lights to light up the ground. So when you're trying to climb up into the truck and, they just light up the ground, which is kind of a cool feature. And you don't see it in a lot of cars. Sometimes they have it in the mirrors and sometimes they have it in a couple places, but in the EV6, it actually is there are two lights in the rear spoiler that light up the side of the car. And it doesn't show up really great in some of the videos I've shared, but when it's dark, like pitch black, it lights up like the whole area. I mean, enough you can see puddles and everything. I think it's really great. I actually talked this with the guys from with Sandy Monroe about that they should be doing nighttime lighting videos on the shows. Like the Cadillac Lyric has a cool light up thing, and the Volvo has a light up thing in the back, and all the cars have some kind of lighting signature in the EV world. And I think that would be a cool thing to look at and just kind of, there's got to be a story behind all of them. I don't know what it is, but I think it's a cool feature.
Well, even the Rivian has like something like a logo that shoots down from the door. And I know Sandy showed that, but he didn't show it at night on his Rivian truck. What was that, Sarah?
I feel like I think we need to take your advice and we need to do a Drive the Lightning After Dark edition.
Ooh,
I think so.
Dark. Yeah.
And so when I was actually talking to Corey about this from Monroe and Associates, is that, whenever anybody reviews a car, they're only reviewing it in the day for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
So they're not seeing, there's not a lot of this nighttime content of vehicles at night, which I think is kind of the coolest time to see a lot of these vehicles. Even when I got to see the Aptera in that dark room, it was very cool to see how the lights from the wheel skirts shined up against the body. So I think there's a whole nother element of looking at cars at night and the lights they have and how they light up. I think it's kind of a cool thing.
Talking to somebody like you, Dave, that drives the car inside, drives it every day, this is much more helpful to people like us and other people that are shopping for an EV.
Right. Real world use.
For example, Sarah, ask Dave about the trunk space.
What's the trunk space like on the EV6?
Well, if you have to go to IKEA, it can hold a lot of IKEA stuff. I did an IKEA run. I folded down the back seats, and I was able to get in all the shelving and all the stuff that I needed from IKEA. There's plenty of room for that. And then even if the seats are up, and those back seats recline to some extent, so you can get pretty comfortable, and there's still a room for a bunch of suitcases in the back.
Wow.
Okay, let me roll that back because I feel like that's an important feature that you just mentioned. The back seats recline somewhat?
Yes. So they have like a
Nice.
couple, a little bit of adjustments. So you can kind of recline back and get a little comfortable. And when you're taking, I guess that's part of the grand touring in GT is that ability for the people in the back to also be comfortable.
I
So
love that.
cool.
That's neat.
One thing I appreciate that you sent this video of was the lights change with the mode you're in, right? This
Yeah.
driving mode.
So when you're in eco mode, I think it's green, and it's all the interior lights and these lights across the dash. Then it's blue for standard, and then red for sport. So then
Nice.
it just kind of changes the ambiance inside the car a little bit, which I think is kind of cool.
But I would argue also that it lends a little bit of a safety feature, because if you forget you're in sport mode and you put the pedal to the metal with the quick pickup that these EVs have, you could be in trouble. So you would want a visual reminder to pay attention to how you're driving.
It does help.
I would
Even though
anyway.
I don't think I ever take it out of sport mode though. So
Well, I guess why would
it's
you?
my favorite mode.
It's un-American.
It is, right?
Sport mode. And also, and that's one of those things though that we have started to appreciate is little details like that. You remember back when cell phones, smartphones were becoming popular, when Apple started making them in different colors, it was like people care about stuff like that, it turns out. And I guess we do too, but the lighting effects of your headlights, by the way, is the most cool looking car in the world, the EV6 with just the headlights on. They're so sweet.
It does look pretty cool. The lights are pretty awesome. I think even the tail, like the way it's all lit up on the outside, I think it's just a really good looking, like someone took the time to think about what it might look like at night with the lights on. I think that's kind of a cool design.
That's so cool.
That
It's
is
so
cool. The car in the daytime, you can tell a lot went into the design. It has really sleek lines. You notice it on the road. You go, what's that? If you don't already know. And you get excited when you see one. So it's nice that they followed that through with a night mode, basically, where it's just as exciting at night.
Yeah. But
so funny thing about the outside design. So I took the car, like I take my cars to a local car wash and wash them. And at the end, it has the wind drying, right? Like 150-mile-an-hour wind, whatever, and it dries the car. So today was the first time I took EV6 there. And when I drove to park, I get 2 towels from the wash guys and I can dry down the car. The car was actually dry. So I don't know if that's something to do with aerodynamics, but I've taken like several other cars there and there's still water on the car. And it seemed to like, I don't know, I have to do this again, but it was kind of cool to see that. I mean, 99% of the whole exterior surface was all dry.
Are you sure that it got wet in the first place, or was the whole car wash just not really working that day?
So it's funny that you say that, because when I pulled up, someone had just gone through, so I knew it was working. But when I got there, the brushes weren't spinning, and I was like, man, I hope this thing is working, and the brushes start spinning, and I just don't go banging my way through this thing. So yes, and I was going to record it because I like recording those videos with the cameras and all the foam and everywhere. Watching it through the 360 cams, but I didn't do it today. But yeah, it was working, and I was super surprised. Like literally every panel was dry.
Interesting. Okay, so if anybody else who's watching this has an EV6 and you've taken it through the car wash, did you have the same experience? Was it like super dry when it went through the dryer? I'm curious. Comment below.
Yeah.
I'd like to see if that is a fluke, because it was actually, I was like, wow, this is like saving like 80% of my post car washing. So
yeah,
good.
Nice. You're going to have to find another way to exercise. No more wax on, wax off. That's done now. That's done now. So before we get to drivability, which is a key for most of us, the heads-up display. You sent this video of the heads-up display. Now, I've never had a car with heads-up display. Is that something you get used to really quick, looking at that for your speed and stuff? And what other information on there is worth having on there?
I guess I pretty much just use it for, I think it has the augmented display. So when you're using the navigation, I think it projects some of the stuff up there.
You would love that.
I would love that.
Which is kind of cool. For me, so I've had a couple of cars with heads-up display, and I prefer that. Like for me, this heads-up display floats way too much in the middle of the screen. Like I
Okay.
wish I could adjust it down to where it sits more on top of the hood as opposed
Oh,
to like projecting on the car in front of it. So
okay.
that's just a little nitpicky thing, and I've tried to adjust it as much as I can. And it'll only adjust so much, but to me, that's one thing I really like is when I can have it more on my hood, where it looks like it's just sitting on my hood, like an old time 70s muscle car
Oh,
that you
that'd
used
be
to have to
so
tack
cool.
on the hoods.
Yeah, right. That's right.
Like that's what I want. Like that's what I want out of my car. I don't need it to be floating off in space.
You know, and you're a lot taller than us, Dave. If we sat in your car, it might block our vision, right? I need to sit on an
It
old phone
might.
book or
Well,
something.
you can sit on my purse.
There's a
Yeah.
solution. Easy.
Okay, let's get to what really matters. That's what does this car drive like?
Man, it drives great, I have to say.
Yeah.
I mean, it's heavy. I mean, it's an EV, there's no doubt about it, but it handles great. I mean, you get on a clover leaf and you can kind of, the nice thing about having instant torque is you just have instant torque. So you can kind of just jump on it whenever you want. So it scoots. I had a chance to drive the GT and it really scoots. Like you can just point it to where you want it to go and you're there. But the weird thing about it is because in that GT is that it's so big, I don't think it feels like you're going as fast as you are. Like I have a lot of
Okay.
cars that are low to the ground, and even when I'm going slow, they feel fast.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right.
The Kia, it's like somewhere not quite SUV, but not quite sedan. So it's kind of in a mid zone. So it feels like it doesn't feel like it throws you back in your seat, that's for sure. But it just doesn't feel like the world is going by like a million miles an hour.
Wow.
Interesting.
That's kind of dangerous for people
Yeah.
like me. I'd be looking up, my head's up display and it says 105 or something, and I'm in a neighborhood, you know?
Well, it's been a learning curve with even with our Nissan Leaf, because up until now we've driven cars that they kind of let you know when you're getting to 50,
Starts to
55,
Right.
60,
Yeah.
70, you know that your car is kind of doing its job and it's not really wanting to do too much more. But I'll just be driving on the highway without paying too much attention and look down and I'm going 75. I'm like, whoa, that was not my intention. It's just that my car gave me no indication that we were going faster than I thought.
The BMW i3 is even more dangerous for us
Yeah.
because you're just there right now. But
Yep.
even that is about half the acceleration statistically of your EV6.
Right.
Yeah.
I had an i3 Rex for a while.
That's what we're
Oh, yeah.
driving
I
right now. Yeah.
I loved that car.
Great car.
It-
When you had your Chevy EUV, you had the Chevy Super Cruise that would help you with lane, staying and all that stuff. What does Kia have? Anything like that, or what do they have like that?
So the Kia has the same a very similar setup where
Okay.
it's not as autonomous as like what the Comma AI is doing
Mhm.
or what Tesla does.
Okay.
But I think it had its pluses and cons over the Super Cruise or the Blue Cruise or the Super Cruise from Chevy. It was able to Chevy required you to be on pre-mapped roads for it to work, where
Right.
the Kia kind of works everywhere. But
Oh,
I have to
okay.
say, yesterday I was on a road, not yesterday, a couple days ago, I was on a road and in a curve and thought, wow, man, this has taken the curve really well. And then it literally just decided to stop driving. Like it just kind of went straight. And I was like, the good thing I was holding onto the wheel. There was not a warning or a whatever. It's just like, yeah, I'm done driving. And then so
Yeah.
So it just stopped taking the curve, just
yeah,
started, I'll just go this way then.
Yeah.
it was kind of like a clover, like an exit curve. And I
Uh-huh.
was going through the exit curve fine. I was like, wow, this is really holding the curve nicely. And then it just decided to not hold the curve and not let me know or
Yeah,
that I
wow.
noticed.
We humans have to
Yeah.
drive our own cars, I think. I mean, because you almost got killed with your Super Cruise too, with your EUV.
Yeah. Okay. There was a bunch of times. So this one is much better about being cut off. Like the Super
Okay.
Cruise didn't care about being cut off. It was like
Right.
it did never seem to see anything coming from others.
I'm holding
There's
my
a
space.
there's a
That's-
whole
Yeah.
inch there. What are you worried about?
Exa-
yes.
maybe it knew something I didn't know because I sure didn't know.
One more question, Dave. When you bought your Chevy EUV, we remember the journey of finding an EV to buy, because this was in the middle of I think the pandemic, and there wasn't any, you had a real hard time. So how did you go about purchasing this? Because when you bought this, I think demand was still a lot higher than supply, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was the demand was pretty high. So I'm very fortunate. I have a Kia dealer here in the Houston area, Fort Bend Kia in Sugar Land. I'm going to give
Say
them a
it again.
shout
What's
out.
it called? What's it called?
Fort Bend Kia
Fort
in
Bend Kia.
just south of Sugar Land. They are fantastic. Helen and Mario will take super good care of you. Um, I had one on order, and that's why I ended up buying the Bolt, because it was going to take a year before to get the EV6.
Right.
They were super helpful. I said, hey, if one shows up, someone cancels, let me know. Someone canceled. They gave me a call. Boom, picked up the car, done, drove home. Super
Nice.
easy.
Awesome.
And they've been fantastic. None of this crazy markup pricing, and
Oh, good.
they're just wonderful people, super easy to work with. I
Yeah.
got to meet the owner of the company, of that
Cool.
dealership, and we had a short talk, but I mean, you could tell that he really leads from the top down. Like, he sets the examples. He wants his salespeople to be successful, great salespeople. So, I mean, from the top down, everybody I've ever dealt with there has been just fantastic. So,
Wow.
I remember, I think you had the Ionic 5, people that
Yeah,
had
we
to go
did
pick
something
it up
with
and
the
drive
Ionic
across
5, right.
country and all the
Yep.
stuff that went with
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I
Yep.
had none of that. Mine was just super easy.
Yeah,
Nice.
Jared and Adette from Washington State, he had to fly out, buy it, and then drive it home, having never driven an EV, never
Yeah.
been to a public charger. He's got like a
Whew.
1,200-mile drive or something. And
That could have
it
been
was
a
tough
challenge.
times.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
it was tough times. So that's nice. You found a dealer you can trust and count on. That's fantastic.
And I've bought 3 cars from them, so they've been and they're always super helpful, help me find cars. Like, whenever I'm looking for something in particular, they're super great at that.
Well, of course they are. You put all their kids through college. You keep showing up with stacks
I
of
wouldn't go
cash.
back if they weren't awesome. They were
Okay, good.
awesome
Right.
from the very first time I met them. So even
Okay.
before, when I was just a tire kicker, they
Okay.
treated me as like I had bought 50 cars from them already. So
Oh, that's
Aw,
awesome.
That is nice.
That's excellent customer service.
Yes,
So
we like
no
that.
buyer's remorse, I take it, on the
no,
EV6.
you know what? I really love it. I mean, I'm glad that it's rear wheel drive. I mean, I would have not cared if it was all wheel drive, because that would have been, but it's not front wheel drive. So I really like the rear wheel drive. The car is great, and it has crazy little tiny details. Like, inside the cabin, like, you have your charging cables. There's
Yeah.
tiny little hooks for the charging cable, so you can keep
Aw.
everything nice and neat inside the car. There's just a lot of tiny little details that this car has that I love. I mean, and it's super comfortable. It's a great car.
So just so people know this isn't a commercial, give us one thing you hate about your Kia EV6.
Okay, so I hate that the heads-up display
It's up to space.
Right.
is not
right.
up on the top. Like, that is one thing. It kind of drives me crazy. Like, I would like to way lower that down. Other than that, there's really not a lot, unless you're not paying attention with the strip for the air conditioning and the audio. So
Okay.
there's a strip, and it either is audio controls or air conditioning controls. And so if you reach down at the wrong time, and then all of a sudden you turn the volume up, and you just turn to the heat inside your car, it's like 100 degrees today in Houston. So if I turn the heat up, I don't need the car to be any warmer. So
Right.
Yeah.
I was just trying to turn up the volume on the music. So that's one thing. But I've changed. What I do now is I use that just for the air conditioning, and the volume I can just do on the steering wheel.
Oh, there you
Oh,
go.
okay.
Simple fix.
Good fix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, any new car, you got to figure out your way around it and how you're going to use it. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Well, sounds good. We're
You
sold.
know what? One more thing I wish
Oh,
the
please.
Kia had, and I hope Kia will listen to me, is on the Bolt EUV. I loved the rear view mirror that was a camera. And
It's
a
not like
screen.
that with the EV6.
Right.
They
It
don't have
is
a camera?
not. I don't even think it's an option, because I was going to see if I could buy it and then,
Yeah.
flip it in and do whatever I needed to do. I don't even think it's an option. And for me, I love that. Like,
Oh, I know
that
you
rear
showed us that
camera
with
on the
your
screen
yeah.
is
Yeah.
the best.
Yeah, so cool. You showed us that with your EUV. We were blown away by that.
Yeah.
Man,
And
that's
at first,
awesome.
I wasn't sure I was going to like it. I thought it was going to be, I don't know, just not work. And now, anytime I get into a car and I look in the rearview mirror, I'm like, that would be so much better if it was just a screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
that's the other thing I would change.
Give us a couple thoughts here before we run out of time on what your next vehicle would be. Now, we know you've pre-ordered the Aptera. We know that's
Yes.
coming. We know that's going to be a car, but I don't think you're going to wait that long before you buy a new car because it just doesn't seem like you.
I know, right? Even though Uncle Sandy said September,
He did. We
We
caught
heard
him.
it.
Caught him
I'd
saying
love
it.
to hold him to that. You know what? As I was looking out, I started looking at the Polestar,
Oh, yeah.
Polestar 2,
So
which I thought
sharp.
would be a super cool vehicle to look at. And then I saw an ad for the new Volvo, and I don't even know what the C30, whatever the new one that's coming out for next year. And that one I think is going to be actually super cool. It's kind of small, but all-wheel drive, 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds, maybe 3.4 seconds. I think that's actually going to be a very cool car too. So I'm looking at a couple cars in the Kia line,
Mhm.
and I'd thought about maybe the Lyric.
I love the
think
Cadillac Lyric.
I think the
Mhm.
Cadillac Lyric is, I mean, I hope that that is a vehicle that is super successful because I think for a lot of people, like they don't want to get a Tesla because it's like living inside of an IKEA. It's so very sparse. But like if I put you in a Lyric, it's like every Cadillac you've driven in for the last 10 years, right? It's very Cadillac-y on the inside. It's not some weird spaceship. So I
Yeah.
think that would be another one to kind of look at. So
It's beautiful up close when we saw it at the Detroit Auto Show. It's gorgeous.
yeah,
I've been
it's an
trying to talk my
amazing.
dad into that because he drives a Cadillac now. And I'm like,
Oh,
the same thing, Pops. It's just a lot better, you know?
perfect transition for him
Yeah.
to go to that. That's the perfect vehicle. Plus, it has the grill that lights up super cool.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
So
So
awesome.
there's so much with the Cadillac Lyrics. So I'm really hoping that GM really figures it out and puts this all together. So
Thank you so much, Dave, for being with us. We really appreciate you sharing your experiences. Thank you.
Yes.
thank you for having me. All right, you're watching Positively Charged. Man, I'm getting it all out of order, aren't I? I'm a blooper reel all on my own.